Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to another episode of The Intelligent Moron with Alex Silva. It's pretty close now to the end of the year. I mean, it's already December 7th, and the year is pretty much over at this point. Of course, we have Christmas coming up in a couple weeks, but at this point in the year, we're close to wrapping it up. It's actually kind of crazy to think about because, we go through the year, day to day, week to week, month to month, and we just kind of go along with the flow, and we don't really pay too much, I don't really pay too much attention about how close we actually are to the end of the year. And I think that there was a point in my life where I didn't really care about it being the end of the year or being the beginning of the year. Like, it didn't really affect my mood on things or on life in general. At a certain point, I just didn't really care. Now, looking at it today, I have to be honest, it does kind of have a weirder feel than it did when I was younger. It almost kind of feels like another year gone. Another year just flew by. It's crazy. It's weird. It's weird because next year is going to be, only in a few weeks, is going to be 2024. 2024. Now that's wild. I remember when it was so vividly, I remember so vividly when it became 2010. And then when it became 2020. And now 2024 is so close. Like, we're so close to 2024 that it just doesn't seem real. It doesn't feel like the year should be ending. It really does not. And it's kind of like, it doesn't feel right. Maybe it's because I feel like I still have so much stuff that I want to do. Things that, I feel like I haven't gotten a fulfillment of the year. In like things that you're supposed to do in a year that you don't end up doing. I feel like I didn't really get to do the things that you're supposed to do throughout the year that you need to do. Like, I don't know. It just doesn't feel like I did enough things this year to wrap up the year. I didn't really do a whole lot of vacationing. I didn't really go anywhere in terms of like, outside of where I live. Like, there's some, points in like the past year where I could have gone to, I don't know, the beach more, maybe the mountains, maybe on a few trips that I didn't end up going to because I chose not to. I chose to pretty much not do anything in terms of traveling, in terms of going other places. Yeah, I'll say that. The year of 2023 in terms of travel was not a good year. In fact, it was a pretty terrible year. I probably, if you could find out a way how to see, like, pinpoint, like, on a Google map or Apple map, wherever, my, travel for my own personal being, where I went this year, it isn't going to be a lot of places. I always try to be, or at least I always try to look out and look forward in a new year and at least try to tell myself that I want to be able to travel more this year than last year. That's always really a good, I think personally, a good benchmark of how to, I guess, have a pretty entertaining year. of your existence. It's a cool benchmark because if we look at our day to day lives, right, day to day in the United States, right, it's work and then the weekend, right? That is what you are supposed to do. That is like guaranteed, like you must do this. You work 5 days, you're off for 2 days. And then you have to, maybe whenever you have the time or able to get the time, go on vacation. Maybe go travel. Maybe on the weekend, go somewhere, fun. Go have some fun. And there was opportunities. I'm pretty sure like this past year, my family went to I think they went to Yosemite for like a day. And I look back on it now and I'm thinking to myself, like, you know what? That would have been a really cool trip. Like, that would have been a pretty cool trip to go to Yosemite for just a day. And they're not like staying there for like days, they're just going there and back. That would have been a cool trip to take. It would have been awesome. Now that I think about it, because I haven't been to the mountains, Yosemite, in so long, in so many years. It's been like, I don't know, maybe like about maybe about 3 years since I've been to Yosemite. And I think when we went last time, we did like a small little hike, and it was pretty fun. It was actually a fun hike. And I would probably, I think to myself, I would do that again. I would definitely do it again. But I feel like it's also like a combination of like, I can't plan things at all. And when people do, they don't plan them in the way that I want them to be planned. So therefore, I end up not going on these trips. Like, my family loves to plan these trips very last minute. Extremely last minute. They love to plan these trips so last minute. It's insane. Like, if you were in my position where it's maybe about a few days until the weekend, and they spring on you, hey, we're going to this place. Did you want to come? So spontaneously, just out of the blue, like, you in or you're not. Most of the times, I'm out. The reason being is because, like most people, I enjoy time off. I enjoy the weekend. Take that time to rest, recharge, reassess, kind of just, chill out. It's, you got to give me at least maybe a week in advance, or maybe even more in advance. Maybe kind of like, talk about it. Let me look at my calendar. Let me see what I got going on. If I already made other commitments, if I already made other promises that I'm not looking forward to breaking, maybe then I'll be like, you know what? Let's go on this trip. Let's go. Let's go see what kind of fun we can have, and plan it out. Maybe I end up taking an extra day off. Maybe I end up taking a couple days off. Maybe we do that. Maybe that is something that for me, I think would be much more, beneficial to us as a group when we go travel, as far as planning ahead and as far as, having, being prepared of what we want to do. Not only does that benefit me, but it benefits everybody else that wants to go on this adventure, I think that also, if I was to go to, any place, okay, like, what would be a place that I would be willing to drop everything to go to, on short notice, because I am, pretty much I don't like short notice anything at all. It's not something that I'm a fan of. If there was a place where I would be like, you know what, screw me, screw my ideologies, and screw how I don't like to be, last minute things. If there was a place that I would throw all that stuff out and just not care, I think it would probably be like Hawaii, possibly Europe. Probably Europe. Like, I think that would be, something that I'd be like, you know what, screw everything, let's just go. That would be the place. I don't know, but though, like, now that I say it, there's probably a lot of like places in Europe that do not require that type of dropping of everything and just going on a trip. You know, it'd have to be like a very, very marquee destination. And I'm talking about like, those beautiful, beautiful European countries and beautiful spots, right? Like Spain, like Italy, Greece, Switzerland. I would drop everything that I'm doing to go on a trip there. If it was all paid for, oh my God, I'm gone. I'm taking a week off and I'll see you later. Ciao Bella. Go see what that country has to offer. What that country has for me to do over there. I just go to town over there and see what it's like. That would be something a place where I would be like, yeah, I'm definitely dropping every single thing that happened, that I'm responsible for right now, going on that trip. Another place where I would actually want to drop everything and just go to. This is going to probably sound like some people might not actually want to do this. I understand that, but I'm very curious about this place. Would be Egypt. I would go there too, pretty much in a heartbeat. Go see the pyramids, try to figure out for myself who made those bad boys, who made the giant sphinx, who made all these structures, the origins of humanity. I would want to see that. I would totally go there in a heartbeat. I think that Egypt is such an incredible, incredible country with incredible history that we don't really know much about. Like, how much of the history on Egypt, ancient Egypt, is accurate? Like, we see what we learn in textbooks. We see what we learn in movies, like National Treasure, The Mummy, all three of them. Right, all three of the Mummy movies. Even the one from, I think Tom Cruise's Mummy is about Egypt too, right? Well, actually, the third Brendan Fraser movie is in China, so never mind. Only 2 Mummy movies with Brendan Fraser, plus the Tom Cruise one, if it's even about Egypt. I'm pretty sure that there's an old school Mummy movie too. I'm not sure where it takes place. I would assume Egypt, but I don't know. But I would love to learn about ancient Egypt culture. And you're probably thinking, in your head, like, why don't you just go to like an ancient Egypt museum in the United States instead of going to Egypt? Well, you know what? I want to see these pyramids for myself. I want to see the Sphinx for myself as well. I don't know if that motherfucker's real. If those pyramids are even real. I have to see them for myself. Touch them, examine them, look really close, and being able to tell if a person actually made that thousands of years ago. Like, I would want to see, I would like to judge for myself. Thank you very much. But I feel like that's very important. I truly do believe that seeing is believing. I'm not a kid anymore. I can't just believe it without seeing. That is so hard for me to do at such an advanced age. I don't believe in Santa Claus anymore. I don't believe in the Tooth Fairy anymore. I don't believe in the Easter Bunny. That ain't real. I need to see these things for myself. I'm not saying that they're not real. I do know that they are real. A lot of people say that they've seen them and they are real. I believe in their words. but I need to see and reaffirm to myself and actually maybe even prove to myself that we did or we did not build these structures. I think that if I'm able to go up to the pyramids, look at it with my own eyes, and try to picture a human being build these things, then and I think everybody who does take this trip can make the assessment whether human beings created these things or not. I think that there's a lot of people that in the world that have not been, that live in the United States, that live across the world, that read these textbooks, that claim this is the truth, have not been to ancient Egypt to see these pyramids for themselves. And I think because that is a fact that not a lot of people have seen these things, it gives the people who write these textbooks almost like a little bit of a cushion to say this, that, and the other. I don't know. I mean, that could be a thing. That could be a thing. It also could be that everything in the book is true, but I don't know. I'm not too sure. My gut feeling, is that humanity built the pyramids, but with help from extraterrestrials, aka a la aliens. That could be a possibility. I mean, looking at like just how they're built, how they were designed, think about how many people lived on the planet back then. There definitely could not be as many people that live in Egypt today as there was back then. Like the population of people in Egypt had to have been so much smaller back then than today. The sheer manpower that would have to be used to build these pyramids is almost at that point in time unimaginable amount of people. Like there's no way that, in an ancient Egyptian's head, like think of this. I can picture tens of thousands of people, at like at a football stadium, like a football stadium, or even a soccer stadium, right? That holds like close to 100,000 people. Maybe like, I don't know, what's one that is a big stadium? I think that there's one. I think the one in, I don't know. Okay, like 50,000, right? Could someone back then in ancient Egypt, could they even picture a scenario where they're able to see 50,000 people in one setting? Is that even possible back then? Just knowing how many people were able to live back then, go outside, being able to do things, healthy people, there was no medicine back then. There was only like herbs. You had to breathe in like some kind of funny smoke, possibly. You had to look at the stars and hope you wake up the next morning. That, I don't know, the constellations possibly healed your illness. I'm not saying that that's how they actually did it, but you have to think back then, a lot of the stuff that we thought, a lot of our science was probably super primal, super underdeveloped, not where it is at all today. There ain't no traces. There can't be no traces back then of modern day medicine. Like, there's no way. Like, just thinking of how much people that they had to have healthy enough to build these pyramids. It would have taken these guys like thousands of years to do that, right? And I think the time period for like ancient Egypt, like where when this was all being established and when this was like being built, was like maybe 2500 BC, maybe 3000 BC. That's like, I don't know, a long time, but I feel like something like that big would take even more than that. I mean, could you imagine like a society, right? Okay, think of this. Society, you know, politics, democracy, leadership, monarchies, uh, all that stuff, right? Ebbs and flows. Like politics and civilizations peak and crumble so very, very often, right? That would have meant like there would have been a natural order and like a rule in Egypt for like those things to be built, right? And that regime or that order or that kingdom would have such a grasp and such a long grasp on the people of that nation, of that country, of that civilization, that they would be able to build those pyramids within the time that they were given. Like, it almost seems just by the sheer like fact of time and how much things can change in time, it doesn't seem that these would be able to be completed within the span of I don't know, let's say like a what? They were built because of a pharaoh? Like what is like the what is like the theorized or like the studied like lifespan of like a Egyptian pharaoh back then? Couldn't have been like more than like 40 years, 35 maybe, if you live that long, if you're like not sick enough to live that long. What happens when Pharaoh dies and he doesn't get his pyramid, right? I mean, I just don't see how any of that makes any sense. How does that make sense? It had to have been some kind of help. Some, species, some other beings, some technology possibly that we have no idea what happened to. That maybe just went away. Maybe they had like cranes back then made out of diamonds and powered by like some crystallic fusion or something like that, something completely like would be science fiction that we totally lost. And like maybe there was like a huge reset of why that happened. I don't know, it just doesn't seem like it's totally possible if you take like just like if you make time a factor and how much things in modern day history change and how things like how many times like things get started and they just don't get finished. You know what I'm saying? That happens a lot. That happens a lot. The fact that we think that back then that wouldn't have happened, or that how I mean, it must have taken those boys so many years to build those pyramids that there was no chance of like rebellion or overthrown of government, that we don't have to build these pyramids. Like I don't understand like how, just with the sheer factor of time, like I don't see how this was even done. Like I can't actually see or envision how human beings built those pyramids. I truly can't. How big they are, how like mathematically perfect the structures of that was. Every brick by brick is just almost perfect. The carving, just the sheer like engineering and the sheer architecture of those structures, and how it was all done by people. Like I don't understand. It's hard for me to grasp. I would love to have a conversation with a archaeologist, geologist, historian, and ask these questions. Like, I actually legitimately want to ask them these questions. And I honestly feel that in this day and age, we cannot just stop digging. You know what I'm saying? We can't, like, put a pause or put a final, like, say, like, this is what happened and that's it. You know what I'm saying? Like, that to me, that mentality of, like, just a dead stop. Like, we're digging for, let's say, like, we're digging for, like, fossils and artifacts, right? Like, someone's actually in the ground working and digging, right? And we're finding things that, date so many years back in time, right? So many years back. And we find these evidence of different species, different animals, not just animals, but like civilizations, different structures, maybe some pots, maybe some pottery, tools being used back then. And we can keep going and going and going because, it's only like, if once we get to a point where we can't keep digging and then we just see like, lava and shit, then obviously that's when we have to stop. Everything else below that's probably already destroyed, right? But if we just stop at a point where we're like, yeah, we're fine here. This is it. We're fine. Like, do we know that for true? Like, is that really the end? Is that all we're going to do? Is that we're just going to stop and quit right there? Someone like me would not be satisfied with quitting at that moment. Someone like me would want to keep on digging and keep on going, because the deeper you go, the more you're going to find. It's almost like being in the ocean. There's so many, the ocean is so vast, so big, enormous. It's almost like terrifying when you look at the globe and you look at yourself, or maybe like Google Maps, and you pinpoint your location, and then you zoom out and you see how small you are with everything else, all the land that you're on, wherever you're at on the globe. Most likely, if you're looking at Google Maps, you're on land. You might be on a boat, that's cool, on a plane, cool. But for most people who are listening right now and are looking at Google Maps right now, you are on land. You zoom out, you're small as shit. Like, I'm just this tiny little dot right there. And then you scroll east or west, and then you see vast ocean. And you just see how big these oceans are and how much they cover the planet. And then you're like, well, I've been to the beach. I've been to the ocean. Of course, I haven't seen all the fishies or all the species that live in the ocean, but the ones that I do know, I see them from piers, maybe from a boat, maybe on a cruise. I see these little dolphins, whales, fishies, but I don't see all of it. I see sharks, but then if you think about it, that's all like hovering and like on the surface. Once you really go deep into the ocean, like, then it gets really scary. Then it almost becomes like the unknown, right? There are so many other species of fish, jellies, other things that we don't even know exist yet, possibly, that are in the oceans of our planet. And the more deeper we go, the more things to discover. Like, I honestly think that we have discovered so many species of fish and aquatic animals that we probably haven't even scratch the surface on how many there actually are, even deeper than we're able to go to. Now, of course, technology is a little bit of a barrier right there. We don't have, I think, enough technology or the right technology to go deeper into the ocean. Hopefully, we can get there, because I would assume that the sheer curiosity of humanity would want to go deeper and to find answers of what is really down there. Of course, funding, money, all comes into play, but I feel like the curiosity and the the desperate want of knowledge would be enough to take over someone's, fascination, and push it towards like warp speed, where like, I need to know what is down there. I need to know. It is our duty. It is our destiny. It is our job to figure out what is down there. I feel like, it's something that taps into the curiosity of human beings. Like, what really is down there? Or if we're on land, what came before us? Who came before us? And what came before us? What really came before us? I mean, we get all these reports all the time, right? Where scientists push the age of the universe. Because why? Technological advancements. We're able to build even stronger telescopes, see further into space, see more than we ever have before. And we don't stop there. We keep going. Why did we stop what it seems like we stopped on land? Doesn't really make any sense. It's kind of something that doesn't seem like we should be stopping. We should be continuing. We should be pushing the boundaries of our very existence. I think it's very, very important that we continue to search and hunt the truth. Find out, like, what we are all about. If it's something that's going to break our brain, I think that we, as people of this planet, have the right to know what really happened. This is all kind of spanning off of me remembering what was being shown to me when I was watching the Netflix docuseries Life on Our Planet, narrated by the one and only Morgan Freeman, which is a fantastic docuseries. If you haven't seen it, I highly recommend it. I do think that it could have been like at least 20 episodes, though, because it's only 8, I believe, 8 or 10, and I do think that they kind of gloss over a lot of things that I would like to know about. But it's a great, it's a great introduction to, and a pretty good eye-opening, concept that our planet has gone through a lot of different changes and a lot of different species and a lot of different environments before even us even grazed it for the first time. Like, they talk about things like early fish that didn't even have jaws, that their mouth was just open the entire time. They talked about like the first bug, like the first organism with like a spine and a backbone, and how that was so important to the development of life on our planet. The dinosaurs were such a dominant dynasty on our planet, as we already know. The way they went out by the asteroid, that if that happened today, man, if an asteroid like that happened today, I mean, it would be, first of all, we would know that it's coming, so it would be the most terrifying time of anybody's life, because we would know that our imminent doom is happening, because we would be able to track that asteroid hurtling towards our planet, like, I don't know, maybe a few days, weeks before it impacted, maybe even more. I mean, we track comets that pass our planet all the time, and with like a month's advance at least. So like it would be quite a time if we were able to track a meteor hurtling at our planet that has the sheer power to cause a mass extinction. That would be pretty horrible to experience. Like the sheer pain and the sheer fear of, oh, the world is going to end in 2 years or even less time. I don't know. But that'd be pretty crazy. I don't know. Incredible docuseries, though. I highly recommend that you check it out. It's quite something that is eye-opening. Again, I think that it could have been in more in depth of what it was covering, but it was pretty good. And I'm glad that Netflix has this out because it is so cool for something like that with money behind it to make it look that good and getting footage that looks incredible. And, going back and like seeing how like certain animals were like slightly changing from now back then to drastically changing. Like it's pretty freaking incredible. Like the doc tells us about this animal. I forget the name, but it was basically like a mammal that loved being in the water. It had 4 limbs and kind of like a long, elongated snout, and it loved swimming in the water. Kind of like a big otter, but with like a big snout, almost like a platypus, but not like a beak, but like just like a just a long furry snout. I can't remember the name of the animal that was in the doc, but they said that this animal evolved into the fucking whale. I was like, what the fuck? And I was like, oh, that's right. Whales are not fish. They're fucking mammals. Can you believe that? That there is a species of animal that breathes air that lives in the ocean. I forgot about that. Whales. They don't breathe water. They breathe air. They breathe. They have lungs. Fish don't. And they live in the water. That is insane. That's incredible. The world is crazy. If you want to watch something that'll blow your mind, that'll make you think about things that you don't even need to think about whatsoever. Like, I don't need to watch Life on Our Planet. I got things to do. I got bills to pay, right? But it's great. It's a great distraction. It's an incredible distraction. It's one of the best things, I think, that if you have absolutely nothing to do right now, and you're at home, you're chilling out, you're on the couch, you got a Netflix account, you're bored, you don't really want to watch a movie, you don't really want to watch a TV show, but you want to be entertained. I cannot recommend more than Life on Our Planet. Interesting, and a very, very good way of laying out events in our entire planet's history. And I'm pretty sure in the doc it says that the Earth is about, I don't know if it was the Earth or the galaxy or the universe itself, but it might be the Earth. I think it was saying like it was like 4.7 billion years old. Like Jesus Christ, man. They even covered like when the first flower bloomed. The first flower. Like, are you kidding me? You see a flower and you just think that it's natural for plants to have flowers. Like, no, apparently back in the day there was no such thing as a flower on planet Earth. It was just green plant. And then they even talked about, I couldn't believe this too, the first blade of grass. When grass became a thing. Grass. The thing that we have on our lawn, the thing that's in the park, The thing that's in like the schoolyard on campus, the thing that we play football on, that wasn't even around for a period of time. Grass, it's unbelievable. It's so crazy of how much like we as a species have been on this planet and have been aware of what we do and aware of what we've done to the planet, and how much of that time that we have been on here that has been documented, right? That has been documented. Ain't it kind of weird though that for us as a species, I think like at what point in history do we not remember our ancestry? Because if you think about it, me as a person, me as a person with a family, with lineage, ethnicity, nationality, heritage, right? I am able to trace my people's ancestry just by general history, not necessarily like family, my personal family history, but my people's history. I can track that for about like, oh man, maybe 1,000 years, and then it gets kind of fuzzy. Someone who's like European, they can probably track like their families or their heritage's history for about maybe 2,000 years, maybe more. I don't know. I mean, but then it gets fuzzy, right? So like there was a point in time where we probably weren't really documenting a lot of things that happened. It was only until like maybe about like 500 years ago when we really, maybe 800 years ago, where human beings really got into documenting what happened and really got into like, this is how it happened, or this is how it all began, or this is, the start of this. There was a point where we really didn't document all that much. And I don't know if it's because all that stuff was lost and it was documented, or we just kind of became a more writing keeping archives of what actually did happen. I mean, it's kind of just, I'm talking off my head, but it just kind of, you think about like, when did we actually really start to record what happened as a species? Because it definitely wasn't 4,000 years ago. I mean, there would have been a lot more things that we could find, unless it was all destroyed by someone or something. I don't know. It's weird. But again, like, I feel like also like a lot of wars happened back then. A lot of fighting happened back then. And a lot of that was because of what other people were doing. Like the people who started the wars started them because they didn't like what a certain people was doing, possibly. And they're like, well, we don't like how they're doing this, so we're just going to kill them all. That's really, that's one way to erase history, is just to kill the people that are writing the history or burning the history that's been written. I mean, I've talked about this before, but the Library of Alexandria in ancient Egypt, which had so many scrolls and so many, documentation and so much history and stories of what had happened in that part of the world for like so many years, was burned to the ground. Like, it's like, whoa, it must have been all just from warmongers who did not want, to remember the past, which, hey, fuck you guys. That sucks. That puts us back like, so many years. Like, what if there was like a technology that we had developed that was detailed and documented in high detail that would have, benefited us today? I mean, hey, that kind of sucks. If you think about it, that actually really sucks. But, I don't know. The history of the world just baffles me almost every day. Moving on, though. Moving on to some movie news. Not a whole lot, but a couple that caught my eye. some cringy stuff, some very cool stuff. The new Godzilla movie, Godzilla Minus One, is now being played in theaters. I have not seen it. I don't know if I will get to seeing it, but it is kind of having a little bit of a buzz here in the United States. And I don't think that it's odd at all. I don't think that it is odd whatsoever. When I look at what is being played in movie theaters right now, there isn't a whole lot that really catches my eye that I want to go see right now in the theater. I'll be honest, if I wasn't busy this next weekend or the past weekend, I probably would have gone and seen Godzilla Minus One. But I will be busy, so I can't do that. But it's been creating a bit of a buzz, like I said, in America. Now, the movie has not grossed a ton of money. It's not like making like buckets and buckets of money, but it is, it is creating a little bit of a splash in American theaters. I mean, it has, at this point, grossed $40 million worldwide, 14 being in the United States, 26 million being in international, which I'll be honest, I thought would be a lot bigger because just of the sheer love of Godzilla in like Japan and other Asian countries. Like, I mean, this movie is a Japanese movie. I would feel like most of that bulk of cash is probably coming from Japan itself. Now, I'm also not very I'm not very well versed in what the Japanese culture thinks of Godzilla. For all I know, Godzilla could be like the Japanese's MCU, where they're tired of Godzilla and they're sick and tired of seeing Godzilla films. Maybe I'm wrong, but that could be a possibility. That may be the reason why, at least in my view, that it hasn't had as much of a gross worldwide, or at least internationally, is because Japanese people are sick of Godzilla. Now, that's another conversation, but the fact that it is getting a pretty big buzz in the United States is very telling of that movies right now kind of stoink. And a whole lot of movies that are coming out that people want to see. I mean, Napoleon, I told you last week, is pretty much dud in my eyes. Killers of the Flower Moon was fantastic cinema, but not many people went to go see it because people are idiots. But it's just Godzilla kind of is giving a little bit of a boost to the American box office, where there ain't really much out there, if I'm being completely honest. There's really nothing. And coming off of a month where the Marvels came out, which became the lowest grossing Marvel film that they've ever put out, is also, maybe telling that audiences are kind of shifting the way they feel about these upcoming films. I'm not too sure, like, if that's a good thing or a bad thing. Hopefully it's good, because hopefully that means we'll get better quality films in the future, and that you just can't put out a MCU labeled movie and then we'll all go see it and we'll all be happy. No. I think that period in our lives, and in Marvel's lives especially, is gone. I think that has passed. I think that they were able to strike gold multiple times through many years. And now audiences are awake. We're seeing this shit that they have put out, and we're not going to take it no more. So it is cool to see a movie like Godzilla Minus One that is not even close to the way that we have made our Godzilla films do pretty well in the American box office. Like, pretty well. For a movie that didn't have a very big budget, I think the budget was like maybe about $15 million, so it's already made its money back. Very well. And apparently the movie's really good. Like, the movie, I even thought that the movie looked like a movie that I would want to see. Like, it's a movie where Godzilla is an actual problem to human beings. Like, it's not a good thing. He's not like in the fucking American version when, I don't know if you guys have seen the new trailer for the new Godzilla X Kong, the new Empire movie, but they essentially have made Godzilla, Kong, and these monsters essentially Avengers. It's pretty cringe. It's pretty awful. I mean, we have now ascended, well, I guess ascended, maybe in my eyes, devolved into making Godzilla and his buddies in Avengers type movies. I mean, straight up, Godzilla is going to be fighting in the Hollow Earth against these other monsters that threaten the lives of the people on the surface of the earth. I mean, like, I should have known that this was coming, guys. I should have known ever since they started to kind of make Godzilla, like the protector of Earth. He's a protector, and he's going to save us. We need Godzilla. He's going to fight off King Ghidorah. He's going to fight off Mecha Godzilla. He'll have a little fight with Kong, and then they'll become best buddies. And now he's going to defend the planet from other monsters from the Hollow Earth. At least that's what I can tell from the trailer. And at this point, it's like, I mean, they made this guy essentially the monsters Avengers. Like, I could not believe how corny this movie looks. But then again, should I be disappointed? Should I have seen this coming? I mean, I think as soon as Warner Brothers decided to make a MonsterVerse with other monsters that are giant, that fight each other, that could have a conflict, I'm pretty sure that they looked at the Marvel formula and was like, how can we make this with our monsters? How can we make it so they are going to fight each other? How can we make it so that they're going to have conflict with one another? And how can we make it so we can make a lot of movies and hopefully make a ton of money? Well, we'll make them essentially Avengers, and we'll just leave it at that. It's crazy. I mean, just the trailer for this movie, man. Like, they got nobody in this movie that anybody wants to see. The main actors are, I don't even know who the fuck they are, but it kind of, at this point, it kind of like don't really care because we're just gonna be watching Godzilla and King Kong fight other monsters, and like, I guess that's just what it's become now. I guess that's all it is. I think that, that's where we are with cinema. That's where cinema is going to. That's where at least American cinema has gone to. Like, we have, it's just insane where we are heading in American cinema. Clearly, the the Marvel era has ended, so these other studios are like, well, I guess we'll step in. I guess we'll just take place in the we'll take our spot, and we will replace the MCU with our MonsterVerse, and people will watch because at least Godzilla is a monster, and he can't talk, and he doesn't have any views because he's a monster, and we just have him fight other monsters, and it's like, oh my god, what have we done? What have we done? From a movie, Godzilla 2014, that wasn't even all that great, but it was fine. Now they even have a show. It's called Monarch, the Legacy of Monsters. I'm watching that show, actually. It's pretty good. It's interesting because it's like all like the backstory of how like the in-movie corporation known as Monarch, like kind of like was like knew about the monster's existence and knew all about it all along and kept it a big government secret until like they were actually like revealed with Godzilla. Almost kind of gives you like UFO vibes, alien vibes, like, oh, this is like a big old thing that, it's now real, that we all have to acknowledge that it is real, and like, how are we going to adapt to it? But also, like, the US government knowing for real that these things existed for decades. It's a pretty interesting concept. I gotta admit to it. Like, people like to gripe and bitch and moan in these Godzilla films, in these monster films, that there's too many people that I don't care about. I just want to see monsters fight. Well, sir, like, I don't know if you know this, but the monsters, like, don't really speak. There can't be much of a story other than fighting. Like, I'll be honest with you, even with the movies that are not the best part. I mean, even with the movies when the human stuff and the people stuff is like not the best part, I still feel like I need the humans in it, because I can't see myself actually checking into a monster movie, just to see a monster like Godzilla growl and roar and blow fire, and that's it. I don't actually think that I could sit through that movie. I really don't think so. I think that if there were, even in like, actual like Godzilla films like from Japan, like the people in the movie, at least in the movies that are the good ones, and I've heard that -1 is a really, really, really good one. The people are so important. Like, the characters I've heard in the new Godzilla -1 film, the characters are like so good. It's like, I mean, why can't we do that in our movies? Why do we just have to show Godzilla fighting monsters? Why can't we just like be like, hey, yo, we can make some good cinema as well. We can make some good stories and also have some cool effects and cool monster fights. But I feel like, it's just like they think that all we want to see is explosions and CGI and fighting, and that's it. Well, I hope that these studios see how poor these Marvel movies that have been kind of shoehorned into and like categorized as just like theme park rides, which they are, by Martin Scorsese, and see how the turnouts for these latest films have gone down and down and down, because they rely on their audience to be blown away by CGI and just go to see the CGI and the CGI explosions and the CGI this and that. And that era, hopefully, for moviegoers is done. Like, we don't care about that no more. In fact, we never did. It was just nice to see. Now that your stories suck, now that you no longer can pump out quality with story and quality with character, we notice that you just tried to distract us with explosions, because you actually have nothing and no creativity and no good ideas and nothing to show for and nothing good, and all of it is bad. It's all gone down the drain. It's all gone down the drain. The worst things, and this is not even about Marvel movies, but the worst thing I think that has ever happened in the age of cinema, and this is more recent, but mainly about like the last like maybe 8 to 10 years, and this is done by Disney, is these fucking remakes of classic movies. You want to talk about a cash grab? These remakes are the biggest cash grabs that I have ever seen in my life. The remake of Lion King made over $1 billion. And it wasn't even close to being as good as the original. And it made over $1 billion. Why? Did it do that? Did people not see it and be like, this is not good? What are we doing? It's kind of. No, it's not kind of. It's a disgrace, I think. It's a disgrace. It's disgusting. It never should have been popular in the first place, except for the one I think that really did it, that made it popular, that was actually a good remake, was Jungle Book. That also probably helped because it looked good too. You know, it had very, very pretty CGI. And it was like, oh, look at this. It looks fantastic. Oh, let's go see this. Bring the whole family. Looks amazing. Looks so real. And then you watch and you're like, yeah, it looks cool, but they're missing the mark on this story. I'm not feeling anything. You know? And I think that because, you know, they have all that, you know, cool effects, they trick you. They blind you with, yeah, look at our effects, but we have no story, or we don't have a good story at all. And that's how they made so much of their money. Or it's like it's a remake, so that we don't want to change the story because we respect the original. Then don't make the remake. If you love and you respect the original so much, then why are you making a remake? Why are you making the same exact thing? Why are you making the same thing over and over again? Because you have no ideas. Like the remakes, the Disney remakes are some of the most disrespectful things I've ever seen in my life. And all they talk about when they promote it, we respect the original so much. Well, don't make the remake. Make something else. Make a. Why don't you make a sequel, but in live action? You ever thought of that? Just make the sequel live action. Like, I would love to see. It would be so much cooler to see like Simba's Pride, or Simba's Reign of the Jungle in live action. That would have been cool. That would have been much cooler. How come we don't get like a continuation of the Little Mermaid story in live action? That could have been cool. But you know what? They ain't gonna stop. They ain't gonna stop because they already have freaking Snow White coming out soon. And that's also a remake. And so is Little Mermaid. And so is Cinderella. And so is Beauty and the Beast and all that shit. I mean, it's unbelievable. It's unbelievable. I mean, dude, remember the year when like they could not be stopped, when Disney could not be stopped? I mean, I think they probably had a year where they had like Beauty and the Beast, an Avengers movie, one of the Star Wars movies, and then just so many movies that made them so much money. And then one of them was just a remake. The others were pretty good too, but they were on such a tear when it came to movies that they were making. They're making so much money, and now they can barely catch a break. Crazy, it's insane. Is it because of the discourse between what people are saying? Maybe people are just being more tight with their money. Or maybe people just think this already. Maybe people have just become better at reading trailers and better at reading how they promote their movies and getting a better read on what the movie's going to be about. And they can make their decision right there. I don't know. It's weird to think about. It's kind of crazy how now it almost feels like now that they got to try harder to make the money that they used to make. Even to make even a fraction of what it used to make, because it just seems like they have to really try now to make a good movie, which is which you should try hard to make a good movie now. But I feel especially with Disney, it seemed like it was just so formulaic, and so just get it out there, do this, do that, do the same thing that we did for this one, put it out there. Now they actually have to try. And guess we'll have to wait and see if they actually do try and if they succeed. Anyway. All right, guys, this is going to be it for me today. People, thank you for listening. Thank you for watching. Remember, you can find this episode and this podcast on all podcast platforms like Apple Podcasts, Spotify, and YouTube at Intelligent Moron with Alex Silva. New episodes drop every Thursday morning. Make sure to like, subscribe, rate and review, and do all that good stuff. And yes, thank you for listening. Thank you for watching. And I will see you guys next week.